Now on the phone, Congressman Brian Bilbray taking a little time out to talk about what is happening there. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
Okay, first of all, what are you doing right now? We just saw a live picture. It looks like the invocation of the House. Is there going to be a vote today?
Yes, there is going to be a vote. As far as I know, we've got a continuing resolution that funds the troops and all the military personnel through September, and gives us 7 days to work out the rest of it to avoid a shutdown.
So what we're saying is we're kicking the can another week.
Yeah, we're really kind of kicking a budget that should have been passed last year. If you remember, what happened is the old majority didn't, for the first time, never passed any kind of budget to run the government.
Yeah.
So we've been forced into this kind of day by day until we can get down to talk about the true budget. And instead of talking about cutting billions, we can talk about the real budget where we're looking at cutting trillions.
Yeah, and obviously that's Paul Ryan's plan. He's the head of the Appropriations Committee. He's got trillions on the table right now. Is that scaring some people up there?
No, I think they understand. The voters vote real clearly. Let's face it, Dan. The Republicans were thrown out a few years ago because they were spending too much. The Democrats came in and started spending more, and the voters have thrown them out and said, okay, Republicans, we'll give you one last shot at trying to show that you can be fiscally responsible and do what every family's doing, and that it's tightening the belt. And it's sort of interesting how slow Washington learns its lessons, and I think that Paul Ryan understands that this is a time to live up to the expectations of the American people and have elected officials who are brave enough to do the right thing and taking the heat like Paul Ryan is. I mean, I'm sure the personal assassinations against him are going to be strong because he's finally standing up and saying we can't afford to continue to borrow 42 cents from every dollar that we spend, and we're borrowing from, not only borrowing from China, we're stealing from our grandchildren.
Yeah, and I guess the numbers now are that we have a $14 trillion debt and a $1.7 trillion deficit just for this year.
Yes, and so that is what we were left from the previous Congress that didn't pass a budget. So now we've really got to address that. The irritation is that we have to spend so much time on these continuing resolutions to get to the September when we can finally talk about actually doing a true budget for this year, rather than having to continue to go back and try to do the work that the previous Congress didn't get done.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the American people out here in the real world are still wondering what's going on up there, why you can't get it together and figure this all out. As you know, there's a lot of dissatisfaction out here in the real world with what's happening.
Absolutely. And look, Dan, let's be very frank about it. The reason why we don't have a budget now is because the old majority was playing politics. They didn't want to have to show the American people the tough decisions because they thought they was going to help them in the election. Yeah. And frankly, it didn't. I think, basically the Democrats got their clock clean because they didn't confront these problems. And I think the Republicans are going to get it again if we don't do it. So I don't think anybody in Washington really understands that we don't have a choice but to make the tough decisions in Washington that are being made in every family around this country. And those tough decisions may not look good in Washington, but boy, the American people are going to be awful mad if we don't finally settle down and get this. And that's why we'd like to get out of this week-by-week thing and get into the main event, which is making sure we have a budget that not only we can live with, but our grandchildren live in. I think that's what we get to. But it's still really irritating for somebody like myself that sat there and watched. We were doing resolutions for football teams and volleyball teams rather than getting budgets done last year. And I think that's why the public was so mad and turned out the Democrats. If the Republicans do the same thing now, they're going to get turned out too. That's the way the system's supposed to work.
Yeah. All right, so bottom line, we're going to kick the can for another week, so you got 7 days to figure it out, and then the military will get paid through September if this resolution goes through.
Yeah, the real advantage here is we eliminate kicking the can on the military budget. We have men and women that are in harm's way. Yeah. They need to be able to know they're going to have bullets to fight the war and either get them out or give them the resources. So that was finally going to be settled. And maybe what we can do that section by section if we have to, but we finally get the military off the table and finally sit down and do the real thing, and that's saying how the heck are we going to run the government for next year rather than addressing what should have been last year, and that's how we're spending money today.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, Congressman, thanks a lot. Best of luck to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
No problem, Dan. Stay out of the water for a couple days with that rain. You know how bad it gets.
Yeah, it's not worth going out right now anyways. But thank you for the advice. See you later.
No problem. Take care.
And we've been talking about